I sat down to write that story because I had this idea in my head. I was like, when I go on Instagram, everybody's on these amazing vacations. And then I started like going through my head of like my actual friends, like the people that I like see regularly. And none of them are taking $10,000 vacations. Most of them are lucky enough to have second homes, which we all laugh about because they're not like fancy second homes. They're like small second homes in less than desirable locations outside the city. and so none of them are taking $10,000 vacations. They're taking their kids to their country homes. Who in my mind are taking these $10,000 vacations? And a lot of it is like influencers who it's all comped.
Who the f*** am I to tell you what to do with your money?
My name is Priya Milani, currently managing millions of hardworking dollars. Enough foreplay. Let's talk
Money.
Welcome to the F word. Smart money.
No bull.
Hey guys, welcome to the F word. I'm so freaking honored to introduce you to our guest today. She is the exceptionally talented writer, author, mother, and my very good friend, Lindsey Stanberry. Lindsey, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks so much, Priya. It's so fun to be here with you.
We've known each other a minute.
A long time now.
Yeah, going back to your Refinery 29 days over a decade ago. Well, that wasn't even the start to your career. You had something that you were doing that's incredible before that. And then when you hit Refinery, you were one of their founding editors.
I was like mid-staff. Like I think that they were, I don't know, it's probably like
You're
number 120 or something like that. But I was an early editor.
Too modest. You then blew up with Money Diaries. Actually, I don't want to rush through these moments because you've had such an incredible career. So can you take us back to that time in your life, Refinery days, Money Diary days? Tell us a little bit about that time in your life. I know it was a very interesting time, and give us the highlight reel.
Yeah, so
up to today.
I joined Refinery 29 in 2013. And I actually joined as copy editor. I like took the job sort of by accident. I was in between things and I needed a new role. But while I was there, they were always looking for pitches. It's the beauty of the internet is they always need more stories. So I wrote about how my husband and I saved a lot of money to buy our first apartment in Brooklyn. And the story went sort of viral for the time. People really liked the details about how my husband and I never went to brunch and how he took a peanut butter sandwich to work every day for lunch. And that story really got me interested in writing about women and money. I was in my early 30s. It was like the first time in my life I had really thought about my finances in any sort of like real way. Partly because I started actually making some money. And also, I think, you hit your mid-30s and you're like, oh, I should, pay attention to my 401k and think about whether or not I'm going to have kids. But I didn't feel shy about asking embarrassing questions. And when I looked around the landscape, I really didn't like who was offering financial advice. It really felt very stuffy. It really felt a world dominated by old white guys. There are plenty of old white guys I like, my dad, my uncles. But I was like, where are the young women talking about money? And actually, that's how you and I connected, Priya. I think we met and like instantly connected over how we wanted to sort of change the conversation around the bad press and bad reputation that millennials had for being, avocado toast buying, latte buying, terrible with money. But also that like we wanted to make the language around personal finance much more accessible and friendly. And while I was there, we launched Money Diaries, which was a team effort. I worked with a wonderful colleague, Jessica Chow, and she was the one who brought the original idea to me. It just blew up. I think at that time, people really weren't talking about money the way that they do even now on Instagram and TikTok. Like, I don't think TikTok was even a thing in 2015 when we launched Money Diaries. So it was just really exciting to like peel back the curtain and give people an opportunity to see how their peers were, making money work.
Yeah, it was a reality check versus social media that kind of makes it feel like everyone's doing everything and why am I not able to do that? It brought a real a real perspective.
And it was centered around women too, which was very different. You know, it was women owning their personal finance stories, you know, explaining, you
Yeah.
know, why they bought what they bought and spent what they spent and earned what they earned. And that was really exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, that was amazing. Yeah, you stole my heart pretty instantly because you were such a, I don't want to say like contrarian voice, but you were willing to shift the narrative rather than just go along with the one that we had always been handed down. And you were really thinking about expressing money and money education in a different way, different style.
Yeah, I was just so desperate to make it feel accessible and not to make people feel bad. I feel like a lot of personal finance experts are really judgy and there's a lot of shaming. And I wasn't interested in that. Like, I want people to feel good about what they choose to spend money on and to feel comfortable talking about the mistakes they made. Because goodness knows, I've made my fair share of mistakes, continue to make mistakes. But, you know, we're all trying to get better.
So Money Diaries, the book, originally was it like a column, would you call it? Or a
Yeah, a
series or
series of column. Yeah.
turned into the book, and that blew up, took the nation by storm. You got to do a book tour,
Yeah. Yeah. You joined me in
and
Chicago.
really,
We had so much fun. It was so
that
exciting
was
to
amazing.
be in those rooms. And then your recent guest, Katie Gaddy Tassin, she actually came to the Dallas stop of the book tour. And being there in that room, it was me and Manish Thakor, who's another fantastic financial expert who we know and love. The like women in financial expert space is very small and everybody's very kind and supportive of each other, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, Katie,
That kicked off her career for Money with. She became
she
Money with
became
Katie
Money with
because of your
Katie. She was
book.
inspired by that event, which is really amazing. That's the dream. That's the goal, is that, like, you know, it's this little movement that we started back at Refinery and it continues to like grow and, you know, hopefully one day take over the world, right?
Hell yeah, hell yeah. So what came after Refinery?
So I left Refinery in 2019 and went to CNBC and worked on a couple of their great franchises there, CNBC Select, which is a website all about learning how to use different financial products, CNBC Make It, which is CNBC's millennial platform. They have a great series, Millennial Money. I had a great team there. It was so much fun to be like working with young, mostly female reporters who were so smart about economic news and really taking, again, like stuff that felt out of reach and making it more accessible. So I learned all about the Fed and interest rates and M&A and all kinds of stuff, which was really fascinating. And then from there, I went to Fortune, where I was executive editor. I worked on the Most Powerful Women franchise. I launched a new section called Fortune Success. Really, the goal there was, again, my specialty of trying to reach younger and more diverse audiences. And then in 2023, I left Fortune and started my own publication called The Purse.
That's what I want to talk about. So that brings us to today, which is such an amazing endeavor that you've started. So you founded this platform, what's turning into a movement very quickly with The Purse. And I want to make sure everyone understands exactly what it is so that they can come take part and follow and get all of your great advice and guidance. So tell us a little bit more about how The Purse was born.
Yeah, so The Purse, you know, actually kind of grew out of the work that I was doing at Refinery. I never really stopped loving talking about women and money, learning about women and money. I managed to definitely fit that into the work that I did at CNBC and Fortune, but I really wanted to get back to my roots. And arguably, it's never been a cheaper or easier time to set up a media business. So many platforms are free or low cost. So I launched a newsletter a couple of years ago. We're on Substack, close to 17,000 subscribers at this point. Similar to what the work I did at Refinery, we have a couple of franchises that are really great. We do the series called Home Economics, which takes like a bird's eye view of a person's finances. And then we go through a lot of personal questions. So we'll ask them, what are their money stressors? Do they think that they're going to receive an inheritance? How has their family's finances impacted their own? It's a thing that they spend money on that drives them crazy. That's one of my favorite ones. And I do another series called Division of Labor, which is another very popular topic, which goes inside a family home and looks at how the spouses break up their days. So how are they thinking about who's cooking dinner, who's taking the kids to after school activities, who's doing the dishes. And it really allows people to get, again, like a peek behind the curtain and really understand how families make it work, or in some cases don't make it work.
Yeah, it's so fascinating to read, and particularly the comments section.
Yeah.
Actually, could you speak a little bit to some of maybe one of the more controversial divisions of labor that you've come across?
It's funny. With Money Diaries, the comment section was infamous. It even got written up in the New Yorker for being so terrible, terrible. And so when I launched the purse, I knew I really wasn't just launching a newsletter. I wanted to be building a community, but I wanted the community to be kinder and gentler and not so judgy. So the comments on the purse are generally pretty supportive. It was interesting. A couple of weeks ago, I featured, typically division of labor is not anonymous. It's couples and they share wedding photos and first and last names. And so it tends to be a self-selecting crew, and they tend to have a pretty good, stable, harmonious family life. But I ran my first anonymous one a few weeks ago, and it featured a woman in her late 50s who was in a second marriage. And for the most part, it was a good marriage, and she really loved her husband. But he did nothing. He did not cook. He did not clean. He did not do the dishes. He did not help with laundry. He did not do anything. And that was a real source of shame for her and unhappiness. And she talked about how she really likes how younger generations are pushing towards more equality in relationships, but that hadn't been her experience. And the comment section was great because I think a lot of people could relate. It's so hard, I think, for women because we want to share our successes, but then we're often made to feel bad about that success. And I think that the same goes because people who are not successful take it personally. And so, I think it's this vicious cycle that we get into: equality in marriage or financial success or being a breadwinner, where people will see someone who's successful and say, well, that's not how it works for me. And instead of turning it inwards and thinking about like, how could they make it better for themselves, they turn it outwards and they make it a negative thing. And I really appreciated how this woman wasn't doing that, where she was like, I recognize that it's great that other people have this, but I don't. And I think by talking about it more, those of us who don't have it will feel better while we're not taking down people who are happier in their relationships. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and have the balance.
And have the balance, yeah.
You're part of let's call it dual working household instead of dual income because everyone's working.
Yes.
How do you and Ken, I love your husband. How do you guys divide the labor with your wonderful, I knew you before you had a kid.
You did know me.
Now he's what, 9?
Now he's 9. It's funny because I started division of labor because I wanted to prove to Ken how much I did, like how much of the mental load I carried. And when we did it, I was like, oh, you do a lot too. So I actually think it's a really good exercise for anybody to do, even if you don't want to share it on the purse. Love it if you want to share it at the purse. But I think it's a balancing act. And I think it's very hard for people to express just exactly the work that they do. There's outward stuff that gets done just because it has to get done. You put away your laundry, you vacuum your rugs, you go grocery shopping. And then there's the less noticeable stuff like, oh my God, the dreaded changing of clothes at the seasons for kids. Like it takes so much time and energy, and making sure that they have clothes to wear to school. And I'm still trying to deal with some like medical paperwork for my son with back to school. And it's like, shoot, we're almost 8 weeks into the school year and I haven't taken care of this yet. So, I think Ken and I feel very lucky because I do think he does a lot. Like most wives, I wish he would do more, but he's a good dad and partner. And so, yeah, I can't complain too much. Get me a few
Yeah.
drinks with my mom
He
friends and we might have a different conversation.
the truth comes
Yeah.
out. I know that you guys have, to your point, very fortunate situation to have a true partner. I forget, does he work in the house or does he go?
Yeah, he mostly works from home too.
And you do too.
And yes, both of us mostly work from home these days. And we have
Yeah.
fairly flexible schedules, which has now allowed us to pay less for childcare than we have in the past. And also, my mom is
Sure.
nearby and she helps a lot. And
Yeah.
having that additional family support is huge. So huge. I was
So huge.
speaking to somebody the other day about having family help with childcare and how that's really a form of generational wealth that people don't really talk about.
Ooh, great point.
Yeah.
I love how easy it is to talk to you about money because, we all know that it's not talked about very much, but you're so willing to talk about it, be transparent about it, and reveal your own situation in addition to highlighting all these other situations from other individuals and different ways of doing things because we can all learn and hopefully make our lives better. One other thing I just love about you and your work and your writing, your style is that you're also really open about trade-offs and grown-up decisions and choices, and we can't have it all, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I was actually reflecting on one of your pieces, Is Everyone But Me Taking $10,000 Vacations, which you actually wrote like a year ago, but I just loved the headline. It's so relatable, and it was one of your travel essays on the purse. You talk a lot about trade-offs and how actually you can tell about, how you made the decision to go on that specific trip and highlighted some of the trade-offs you had to make.
Yeah, I think about this all the time because I feel like, I sat down to write that story because I had this idea in my head that I was like, when I go on Instagram, everybody's on these amazing vacations. And then I started like going mentally through my head of like my actual friends, like the people that I like see regularly. And none of them are taking $10,000 vacations. Most of them are lucky enough to have second homes, which we all laugh about because they're not like fancy second homes. They're like small second homes in less than desirable locations outside the city. and so none of them are taking $10,000 vacations. They're taking their kids to their country homes. Again, I promise you, they aren't fancy. Who in my mind are taking these $10,000 vacations? And a lot of it is like influencers who it's all comped, or it's younger people who don't yet have kids and so they have a bit more disposable income. So it was really funny to me, like working through it. And the trip that I talked about a little bit in the piece was a mom's long weekend that I took a couple of years ago to the DR, celebrate one of the mom friends' 40th birthdays. And I did not recommend the resort that we stayed at in the piece because it was not great. But we had so much fun. We just had the best time, and we still laugh about it, and we still have so many inside jokes from it. And we're trying to figure out if we could do another one of those vacations this year. But there were trade-offs, right? Like I had to figure out, okay, if I'm doing this, like what am I not doing? And we ended up not taking a family vacation that summer for lots of different reasons, not just financial, but the financial piece was some of it. And we decided to put what little travel budget we had towards the trip that Ken and I took to celebrate our 15th wedding anniversary last winter. So really, like, I think that the point of the piece is that when you really step back and think about it, chances are your friends are probably not on $10,000 vacations. It's like influencers, and best just to mute them or remember that they live different lives than the rest of us do. And then it's important to really think about what your values are and spend your values. And sure, like it would be nice to take fancier vacations, but I would say just take the vacation, like take the cheaper vacation. We went this summer to Chicago and did a family of 3 trip, and we had so much fun, and we didn't spend very much on it, and it was great. It was not $10,000.
But going back to your values, obviously that's a big word for us because we're all about intentional spending and figuring out what your values, what your priorities are. And it's so often, speaking to specifically to someone who's in a serious relationship, when you get into a relationship with another individual that you want to spend your life with, designing that life is the first step to figuring out how to purposefully funnel your money where you want it to go. And that could be vacations, likely is vacations. For most people I know, it's vacations, but there are other things.
There are other things. And, that's always been something that I think is central to my story and to my relationship with Ken, is that like our conversations on how we want to spend our money and our focus on saving has allowed us to have so many amazing things. And for me, it's been worth giving up some of that travel to have an apartment that we then sold to buy another apartment. And like, I love my home. My home is my everything. And then that's also allowed me to take this huge change and pursue the purse with the knowledge that like we can continue to save and invest modestly and have enough for the future because we were so careful in our 20s and 30s to get to this point.
Such a good point is that you had a series of kick-ass jobs.
Yeah, I had a series.
So then to like make that leap to say like, I see you, I see the security, I see the health benefits, I see the 401k match. I'm pursuing my own thing. How have your money priorities shifted?
Like dramatically. Since
the purse.
Dramatically.
Yeah.
Like, I've talked about this a little bit in the purse. Like, I'm a huge shopper. I love to shop. I love nice clothes. And while I was working those kick-ass jobs, I had a great time buying a lot of clothes. But I also found myself often falling into like retail therapy to make me feel better about how hard the jobs were, the politics of the job, the stress of the jobs. And now I don't make the money to pursue any retail therapy, but I don't really have to. Like, I'm in a much happier place. I don't get Sunday scaries. I'm pursuing something I believe in. I'm working with people I adore. It's really hard. So many people are like, should I do this? Should I like leave my job and do what you're doing? And I'm like, God, no, do not do what I'm doing.
Once you're dealing with the pain, you can handle it. But if you knew in advance.
I knew it was going to be hard. I was not foolish going into it. And I regularly ask Ken, like, okay, is it time for me to go back and get a job with benefits? And he's always like, not yet. Though I feel like recently he was maybe like, maybe. Not really.
Not with how fast the purse is growing and with how many people you guys are reaching. You have grown that audience, that community on Substack in record time because it's so authentic. It is so real. It is you pouring your heart out and sharing these amazing stories of others that resonate very, very crystal clearly. It's impressive. Anyway, I'm one of your biggest fans. As you know, I love everything you do. I love your voice. I love your take. And I appreciate all the effort you put into your work. True effort. Like you care to do big things and you care to do the right thing. And that is so apparent.
Thank you, Priya.
In your work.
It means a lot.
Yeah. Okay. So we always like to end with the segment, the best bite, because I'm such a foodie. In fact, you introduced me to one of my favorite restaurants. I don't know if I've told you this, but ever since that time we went to Kiki's in the Lower East Side, I've gone back 100 times. So good. So the best bite is all about something you've eaten recently. And it could be something around your home, something you cooked in your neighborhood. What is like the most delicious thing that you've had recently? Give me a recommendation for where I should go and what I should eat.
In our neighborhood. I'm going to go further afield. I went to London with my mom for Mother's Day this year. It was we were supposed to go during the pandemic to celebrate a big birthday. Both our big birthdays, and we didn't get to go. So we were in London and we went to Dishoom, which is the very hot Indian restaurant chain. And it's coming to New York, and it lived up to all the hype. It was so delicious. It's so good.
That's such a good one. I just went actually in September. So I need to know, what did you eat there?
I can't remember what we ate.
Did you get the okra fry?
Yes.
Was it the okra?
Yes.
I love
Oh my God. I love okra. It's like one of my favorite foods. Yeah, I had the okra. I think we had the butter chicken because isn't that their signature dish?
Can't not.
We had dal. It was so good. Oh my God. It was.
Yeah.
I feel like we got something else.
That's good.
I feel like we got a fish dish, but now I can't remember. There's just two of us. I don't know how we ate it all. I like that it's like smaller plates too.
It seems like cuisines on the other hemisphere are all like sharing plates, but like you can try a lot of different things. I like that as a vibe for communal eating.
I like
versus like
like a huge plate in front of you that you're not sharing.
Yeah, like 17,000 bites of like the same thing to me is just not as interesting as like, oh, I'll try that. So I really love family style.
Yes.
Kiki's is like that too. Okay, so for your best bite, we're going with Dishoom's okra fries.
Yes, perfect.
Which I've had, but I'm gonna I love that. That's so good. They're fantastic. Lindsey, thank you so much. Where can people find you? Where do you want us to go? How do we get on to your channels?
Yeah, you can find me at The Purse, which is on Substack. Just simply Google The Purse on Substack. And you can find me on Instagram at Read the Purse.
Yeah, I love your Instagram too. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. And to everyone listening, if this was helpful or inspired you in some way, or you know a friend who needs to be reading The Purse, please send them there. Please share this episode. And remember that it's all about maximizing your money in your 30s so you don't have to play catch up in your 40s. All right, we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to The F Word with Priya Malani. If you like what you heard, hit subscribe wherever you're listening and leave us a review while you're at it. We're approval junkies. Don't forget, you can find a ton of great resources, content, courses, and other freebies at stashwealth.com. Now, for the capital S stuff our lawyers want us to say. Stash Wealth is a registered investment advisor. Content presented is for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to make an offer or solicitation for any specific securities, product, service, or strategy. Consult with a qualified investment advisor, that's us, before implementing any strategy. Investing involves risk, including the loss of principal. Past performance does not guarantee future results. There, we said it.